Hey, it's Paige Lene, and welcome back to my YouTube channel if you're subscribed, and hello if you're new. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make pants. Now I'm making them out of this fun Grateful Dead material. My friend Jalen gave me this material to make pants for him, and he's so awesome. He's a thrifter, this style guru. I'll leave his Instagram and all of his info right here so you guys can follow him and see how awesome he styles these. But don't feel any pressure if you're new to sewing to use a crazy material like this. I definitely suggest using a solid material, no print, no zigzag. Don't feel discouraged. You'll see while I'm sewing that you have to line up certain things when you're sewing, and it can get crazy. You'll have a bare head up here, a bare leg down there. So if you just want a pair of cool pants, DM me at Paige Lene, and I'm totally down to make you guys some pants or anything else you want to make. You can set up a consultation with me, so I'll leave my information. But without further ado, here's the tutorial. Like, comment, subscribe if you guys want to see more of this. And here we go. Okay, so first you want to make a pants pattern, and by doing that, you're just going to take your favorite pair of pants, or the ones that fit you like the ones you want to make, and go ahead and trace that. Now you can use a ruler if you want to be more precise. Sometimes I just freehand it, but you want to go ahead and trace the front, and then you're going to do the same thing for the back. Now we want 4 pieces for our pants, so we can sew the back left, the back right, the front left, and the front right, and we're going to cut that out. Make sure that your fabric is folded in half so you get all 4 pieces, so you don't have to trace and cut 4 out. You just want to do 2. So you're going to cut through 2 layers, and I can sometimes leave a little bit more room than I had for my seam allowance just to allow room for mistakes. So in total, I would leave like ½ an inch of room left for seam allowance. You see I'm cutting both sides out right now. Also, when you put your patterns down, make sure you pin them to the fabric so they don't slide. Sometimes I even use weights, but I just took about 5 pins. I pinned it in the crotch, pinned it at the top, pinned it at the bottom, so your fabric's not sliding on you, because you want to make sure that this is precise, so especially in the crotch area, because that can make or break your pants. Okay, now that we have our front and back pieces cut out, you're going to take one of the front pieces and one of the back pieces and line them up on the side seam. But when you line them up on that side seam, you're going to want to make sure that the fabric and the good side of the fabric are touching each other. So that's right sides together. And sorry if I'm saying things you might already know, but I want to try and make this tutorial easy for people that don't know how to sew as well. So now I'm just smoothing out all my fabric. Like I said, I have one of the front pieces and one of the back pieces. And I'm pinning it all down the side of the leg and then all the way up the inside of the leg until I get to the crotch. And you're gonna know the difference because the crotch has a little bit of a curved shape. Okay, so now we're going to stitch down the straight side of the leg and then also the inside of the leg. I use about 1/4 inch seam allowance, and my stitches, like the distance between them, I think is 3.0. I also use a serger to clean up the inside of my leg, but if you don't have a serger, you can leave it as is or do a zigzag stitch. Okay, now that both legs are sewn, we have to add them together, and to do so, we're going to grab them at the middle and pin them. And we're gonna make a big U shape, and when you do that, it's going to sew both of the legs together. It looks kind of crazy right now and it's hard to see, but you're gonna want to pin them together all the way around, and you're gonna sew from the front to the back. Now there's 2 methods to join pants actually. There's the method that I'm using where I'm pinning the front and back together and making a U shape, or you can stick one leg inside of the other leg with one of the legs inside out. Now that one just kind of like throws me off because I can't see it visually, but this way you can see what the pants are gonna look like before you even make them. So look at me holding them up, and they're just pinned together, but I can tell that they're pants. Now you're just gonna take your time going in that U shape, remove your pins carefully as you go through this. And this is joining our left side and our right side together. So you see I'm just slowly going over my pins in that U shape. And make sure your fabric lines up, because if you have a design like I have, or if you have zigzags or stripes, you want them to match up. So make sure your fabric is even. Now I'm going through and I'm serging that same part that I did. Because I want it to be clean on the inside. You want it to be comfortable. And if you don't have a serger, no problem. Just zigzag stitch it or trim it down. If you're new to using a serger, please take your time. Nothing's worse than rushing on a serger, and as you see, it's cutting the fabric off as I'm sewing. So if I accidentally get the bottom of those pants in there, it's cutting it right off. So please be careful, take your time so you get a beautiful inside just like this. See how when your fabric lines up, the middle of those pants are perfectly aligned. Like the shape that this makes is beautiful because my fabric matched up. Now if I was an inch off on the left leg, an inch off on the right leg, that oval shape would not be there. So now I'm just cutting off access to make my waistband because it was a little too long. I went ahead and cut off a few inches, and then I also cut off more in the front than I did in the back because you want your back to be higher because, you know, the junk in the trunk. So you're gonna go ahead and serge the top of this. Now this is just to be clean. I'm such a perfectionist when it comes to sewing. You do not have to do this, but before I'm doing my waistband, I'm serging the top, and you'll see how pretty and clean it is once I finish. So now our pants are all ready to be pressed, and look how clean it is at the top. We're gonna take it to the ironing board, and we're gonna go ahead and use a ruler to measure about 1.25 inches because our elastic that we're putting in there is 1 inch. You don't wanna make it 1 inch or it's gonna be way too tight. So just give a little bit of room. I'm gonna go ahead and press it and steam it. Make sure that line is very clean. So when we stitch it down, it's all ready to insert the elastic. So now I'm just gonna make sure that all the way around is the length that I want it to be, because the last thing you wanna do is sew it down and your elastic doesn't fit inside of your casing. Now we're going to set the sewing machine to a zigzag stitch. And I do that because we're sewing on the right side of the fabric and the back side has that casing that we want to catch. So make sure that you are stitching about 1 inch away from the casing. And you want to make sure it stays straight, because if you don't stitch the other side down, the elastic is just going to fall right out. So all the way around, we're going to go ahead and stitch it, zigzag stitch that. To make this process easier, please use pins. Pin down that whole casing you use, and if it's a pin every inch just to make sure your fabric stays straight, please do that. Now you don't want to stitch it all the way. You want to leave a little hole because we got to be able to put the elastic in. So as you see, that's my hole that I'm going to insert the elastic in. Now when you cut your elastic, make sure it is about the length of your waist. Go ahead and cut that, and you're going to use a safety pin, put it on one side of the elastic, and then you're going to feed it through the casing that we just sewed. So this kind of just takes a little bit of patience if you're new to it, but if you're used to it, just go ahead and insert the casing, and you're just scooting it through. Also, life hack, if this happens to one of your hoodies, like a string or the inside of your pants, you can literally do this at home. Just add a safety pin and put it back in your pants. Okay, so I'm realizing that I did this next part off camera, but all I did was add both of the sides together once I pulled them through and did a straight stitch through it right there. And then you want to close the casing, so that hole that we had earlier, you just want to go ahead and stitch it all the way, so you're closing that elastic within the pants. Now this part that I'm doing right now is extra. I am making 2 little holes so I can make like a drawstring. Now although I have elastic, it's like, why do you want drawstring? It is for aesthetic. We want the pants to look fire, so I wanted to make like a little white drawstring. And now I'm cutting that elastic, and it's like already pre-made elastic, but I'm going to fold it over and stitch it so it's like a design detail. Like I said, this is totally extra. You can leave it at the elastic and be done with your pants if you want to. Now I'm just going over this drawstring with a zigzag stitch to close it off. And as you see, I'm using red thread because it has red in the pants. I feel like it's gonna perfectly come together. Literally, these ideas just pop in my head while I'm sewing. This is why I never sketch anything, because I'm like, oh, that'll look good. So I'm stitching that all the way through. Now you're going to do the same exact thing we did with the elastic. Add your safety pin to the drawstring and feed it through the casing. And you want to feed it all the way through one hole and bring it through the next hole. Once you get it through, you want to tie a knot at the ends of your drawstring so when you pull them, they don't fly into the pants. We all know how that happens and it's terrible. So make sure your knot is thick enough so it does not go back into the pants. And now we have our pants. So I did take up the side seam. I cut it up on the side so it would lay over my shoe, and I just serged it for a clean look. And look how good it aligns in the back. That's what I'm saying. You have to make sure your fabric is straight. It's so worth it. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any questions, DM me or leave a comment. Much love.